Practice is a contronym. What does that mean? That means the word practice also means its opposite. Strange but true, some words have dual meaning, and the two meanings are opposite from each other. They're contronyms. The word practice actually has several meanings, like many words have multiple meanings. A student practices piano. They practice piano to learn something that is not yet mastered. A doctor practices medicine. A doctor does something at an expert level. These two meanings are opposite. To practice because you don't know something, or to practice because you know something very, very well. A contronym is a word that means its opposite. Contro is the syllable prefix for opposite, and nym is the suffix or syllable for word. Contronym, a word that means its opposite. Sometimes these are called auto-antonyms or Janus words. Auto means self, and antonym is a word with opposite meaning. Let me make myself a little smaller there so you can see that. Auto, antonym, a word with opposite meaning. A contronym, therefore, is a special kind of antonym. It's its own antonym, a self-antonym. The title of this seminar is an intentional contronym. The Legal English Practice Seminar can take either meaning, and it still makes sense, I hope. We practice legal English to get better in the discussion sessions of this course. We practice what we don't know so we can improve. The documents we provide will help support an expert level English language law practice. We help you develop your legal English practice. That sense of the word is expert level practice. So you get 2 in 1 in this course. You get to practice what you don't know, and you get to develop a practice at an expert level. Let's look at this word practice a little bit more closely, and I've taken the dictionary definition from Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and the word practice as a verb means to train. Let's look at some examples and let's look more closely at that definition there. The definition is to do or play something regularly or repeatedly in order to become skilled at it. Here's some examples. I'm good at tennis, but I need to practice my serve. I want to practice so I can get better. In fact, I'll take some exercises that are different than playing that will be focused to improve my tennis game. And that's what we'll do in this course too. We'll take special exercises using language instruction science that will help you make best use of your practice time for improvement, that will help you get the most improvement for your time and effort. The second sentence here, let's look at that. I need to get some practice before my driving test. So a student driver would take some course or some driving practice with an instructor and work to improve. Are you coming to choir practice this evening? Before a performance, musicians will practice and rehearse their music so that they are better. Even if they're at expert level, they still practice. In fact, sometimes the words combine, so an expert musician can still practice to make perfect. Now let's look at this next example here. She is never at home because she spends all her free time at hockey practices. My daughter plays hockey, and so I know all about that. It's a great thing, hockey practice. Next example. You'll gradually get better at it. It's just a question of practice. And that's especially true for language. If you practice a little bit each day, you will improve. The science of language acquisition, the science of language learning, tells us that a little bit every day, repeated practice, will make us improve, will help us improve. And everyone can learn language and you can improve. There are diminishing returns to some forms of practice. For intermediate and advanced students of English, special types of practice will help you improve more quickly. And some types of practice will take you sideways. They won't necessarily improve your language skills. Next example, I'm a little out of practice, meaning I haven't had any recent experience, but I'd love to play. So out of practice means I've not been rehearsing, practicing, training, and so the game might not go as well. So some people are always practicing in the sense of training in order to be good at playing. And the final one. Do you mind if I take a few practice shots before we start the game? In that case, the person would be just trying the shots like a warm up. A warm up is a good example. I find that very helpful for language. I am learning Italian. I am a New York lawyer living in Italy. And so if I am going to an environment that's all Italian, I'll even practice and read. And even in that short time, it's almost like downloading a little bit of the language and it freshens me up. And so we'll give fantastic scientifically proven techniques to help your practice. And there's a second verb form of practice, and that is to work. To do a particular type of work for which a lot of training is necessary. So we don't practice all kinds of jobs. We practice those jobs that are highly skilled. And in fact, law practice is one of those. We always talk about a law practice, practicing law. What field of law do you practice? Let's look at some more examples. The firm has been practicing intellectual property law for over 100 years. Now, if we took the first meaning to train or to rehearse, that's a kind of a long time to prepare for a case. I've prepared for cases before. They take time, but 100 years is probably too many billable hours. That is definitely the second form of the verb practice. There's even a subcategory, what we call a phrasal noun, that when it's combined with another, when the word practice is combined with another word, it has a little bit of a different meaning. And noun phrases are going to be very important in legal English because legal English often takes a different meaning than colloquial or everyday regular English. And part of that difference is signaled by other helper words that make practice into a phrasal noun, a noun phrase that has special meaning. Here's some examples. It seemed like a good idea before we started, but in practice, it was a disaster. And so that is used to describe what really happens as opposed to what you think will happen or what the theory tells us. So in practice is a special phrasal noun, and it's kind of bringing things down to earth and saying what really happens when we do it. Another example. Officially, Robert's in charge. But in practice, Hannah runs the office. That's what really happens. That's what happens every day, as opposed to what you might think happens. Maybe Robert has a fancy title, but Hannah has all the real skills. And here's the third example here. I can't see how your plan is going to work in practice. When you actually go to do it, maybe it won't work. And so that's an important phrasal verb form. And here's a few more examples. It frustrates me that I'm not able to put any of my ideas into practice, into useful, that use into practice is into useful application. Another example. He doubted whether the plan was realizable in practice, whether it could really happen, whether it could be made into reality, made real, realizable. Her idea for reorganizing the department will never work in practice. The idea might be good, but when the time comes to do it, maybe it doesn't work. And probably it's not Hannah who's decided that idea, because Hannah seems to know what's going on. Okay. Another example, you'd better check all the details before you actually put the scheme into practice. Put it into practice is to do it, to actually do it. I guess we can say this course also uses the third form of practice, the phrasal noun form, because we use legal English in practice here. We put it into practice. We put it into real terms, and the discussion will let you practice for your legal practice and put into practice legal English, all three at once.